From the outside, their love story seemed unbreakably hip-hop power couple who conquered every scandal, every rumor, and every heartbreak thrown their way. But nobody, not even the closest family or most diehard fans, could have seen this coming. The courtroom was packed, the cameras flashing, and whispers echoing off marble walls as Chrissy Lampkin rose to her feet, her voice trembling yet fierce. It was in that very moment, with the world watching, that Chrissy unleashed a confession so explosive, so heart-wrenching, that it would send shockwaves through every corner of the hip-hop world. Jim Jones, usually so composed and defiant, was left speechless, sighs wide, fists clenched, caught in a tidal wave of emotion that threatened to destroy the very foundation of their relationship. Emotions ran high. The judge, the jury, the entire audience, everyone hung on to Chrissy's every word, not knowing if they were about to witness a reconciliation or a complete implosion. Even their family members, huddled in the back rows, braced for impact as secrets long buried began to surface tonight. We unraveled the confession that left fans stunned, the family divided, and Jim Jones facing a truth so raw it might just change everything forever. The tension in the courtroom was almost unbearable. Chrissy Lampkin's hands trembled ever so slightly as she gripped the edge of the witness stand, her gaze flickering from the judge to Jim Jones, who sat just a few feet away. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Fans watching the live stream held their breath, and the comment section exploded with speculation and shock. Outside, reporters jostled for space, eager to capture the moment the couple at the center of so many headlines finally faced their truth. Jim Jones tried to mask his anxiety with a stoic expression, but anyone who truly knew him could see the storm raging behind his eyes. His mother, Nancy, sat just a row behind him, her face etched with worry, clutching a crumpled tissue in her hand. Chrissy's best friend, Emily, dabbed at her eyes, barely holding back tears. The entire family seemed to sense that everything was about to change as the judge called for silence. Chrissy's voice broke the tension like a crack of thunder. "Your Honor," she began, her words steadying as she found her courage. "I know I have made mistakes. But today I have to tell the truth, not just for myself, but for Jim, for all of us." There was a collective gasp. Everyone in the room could feel the weight of her words. Rumors had swirled for weeks about money troubles, broken trust, Kate night arguments, but no one expected what was coming next. "There were things I hid, things I never thought would see the light," Chrissy continued, her voice quivering. "I thought I was protecting us, but I see now I was just building walls." Jim's jaw tightened. Every muscle in his body tensed as if preparing for a blow. Fans later said you could see the heartbreak ripple across his face in real time, the tough guy image melting away. For just a split second, even the judge seemed to lean in closer, his gavel resting forgotten. The courtroom became a theater of raw emotion. As Chrissy spoke, she locked eyes with Jim, and it was as if the world fell away. "You always asked me why I kept my phone so close," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I said it was nothing. I lied." The admission hung in the air like a dark cloud. People in the audience exchanged glances. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others reached for their phones to text friends and family about the bombshell moment unfolding before their eyes. Jim's lips parted, but no words came out. His mother, Nancy, shot a sharp look at Chrissy, her own protective instincts flaring. "Why now, Chrissy? Why would you say this here in front of everybody?" Nancy's question was met with silence, but the pain in her voice spoke volumes. Fans on social media were quick to pick sides, some blaming Chrissy for opening old wounds, others applauding her bravery for finally speaking out. Chrissy drew a shaky breath, determination flickering in her eyes. "Because secrets don't die, they just grow heavier. And I'm tired of carrying them alone." Her words reverberated throughout the courtroom. Even the bailiff, usually so detached and professional, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Longtime friend and manager Derek whispered something to the person next to him. Disbelief written all over his face. As Chrissy went on, she recounted nights spent waiting up for Jim, wondering if he was out hustling for their future or if he was hiding something too. "We've both made mistakes," she confessed, her voice cracking. "But I never thought it would come to this. To us airing our pain in front of strangers instead of healing it in private." Her words drew a murmur from the crowd. For years, fans had followed their relationship like a soap opera, rooting for their triumphs and gossiping about their setbacks. But nothing could have prepared anyone for this level of honesty, or the heartbreak behind it. Suddenly, Jim couldn't take it anymore. He rose from his seat, his fists clenched at his sides. "So what is it, Chrissy?" he demanded, his voice echoing through the silent room. "What did you hide from me?" His question hung in the air, and for a moment, Chrissy seemed to shrink under the weight of it. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't look away. "It was never just one thing," she said softly. "It was the way we stopped talking, the way we started doubting each other. I was scared you'd leave. I was scared you'd find someone else, so I pushed you away before you could hurt me." The vulnerability in her voice was like a dagger. Jim's tough facade began to crack, and for the first time, he looked truly lost. The judge cleared his throat, reminding them to keep their emotions in check, but the damage was done. The entire courtroom felt the shift, the fragile bond between Chrissy and Jim fraying before everyone's eyes. Outside, the crowd began to grow as word spread of the confession. Fans wept openly, while critics took to social media to dissect every word, every tear, every glance. Nancy couldn't hold back any longer. "This is not how families fix things," she cried out, her voice trembling. "We talk at home. We don't air our dirty laundry for the world to see." Her words only deepened the divide. Emily reached out to comfort Chrissy, but was met with a cold stare from Derek. Squarely blamed her for escalating things. Chrissy's confession didn't just shock Jim, it shattered the image of unity their family had worked so hard to maintain. Their friends were left reeling, unsure how to support either side. Even the judge, who had presided over countless high-profile cases, later admitted in private that he had never witnessed emotions run this high. As the afternoon sun faded, casting long shadows through the courtroom windows, Chrissy took a shaky step back from the stand. "I know I can't change the past," she said, her voice barely audible, "but I can be honest about it. I hope that counts for something." Jim's face was a storm of emotions: hurt, anger, confusion, and somewhere deep down, love. The judge signaled for a brief recess, giving everyone a moment to collect themselves. As Chrissy stepped down, fans outside erupted in a mix of cheers and jeers, some shouting her name, others calling her a traitor. The family was left divided, torn between loyalty and truth, between protecting their own and facing the consequences of secrets kept too long. As Jim made his way out of the courtroom for some air, the cameras followed, capturing every step of his pain journey. He didn't speak to reporters, but the anguish on his face spoke volumes. Meanwhile, Chrissy was surrounded by her closest friends, all of them talking at once, trying to process what had just happened. Emily squeezed her hand, whispering, "You did what you had to do." But Chrissy wasn't so sure. In the hallway, Derek confronted Nancy, his frustration bubbling over. "We should have seen this coming," he muttered, shaking his head. All those late-night arguments, the cold silences, the tension, it was only a matter of time. Nancy wiped her tears, trying to compose herself for the cameras. "Families fight," she insisted, "but we always find a way back." Her words rang hollow, even to her own ears. Just as it seemed the drama might settle, a new voice cut through the chaos, a reporter holding a microphone, desperate for a quote. "Chrissy, do you regret telling the truth?" The question hung in the air. Chrissy hesitated, glancing back at the courtroom doors. "Ask me tomorrow," she replied, her voice weary. "Today, I just want to breathe." Little did anyone know, the biggest twists were yet to come. As the family regrouped and the judge prepared to bring everyone back, an unexpected figure appeared in the hallway, holding an envelope that would threaten to change everything once again. ... The hallway was still buzzing with whispers and hurried footsteps when the mysterious figure stepped out of the shadows. He wore a dark suit and moved with the kind of confidence that suggested he was no stranger to a high-stakes drama. In his hand, he clutched a thick manila envelope, its corners bent, as if it had already changed hands more times than anyone could count. For a brief moment, everyone seemed to forget the pain and tension of Chrissy's confession. All eyes were on the envelope and the secrets it might contain. Jim, who was still trying to catch his breath from the whirlwind inside, froze mid-step as the figure approached. Nancy, ever the guardian, instinctively moved to shield her son, her gaze sharp with suspicion. Derek, still simmering from the family's public unraveling, narrowed his eyes, trying to make sense of who this newcomer was. But Chrissy, despite the storm inside her, felt a chill run down her spine. Deep down, she knew that whatever was in that envelope had the power to change everything again. "Are you Chrissy Lampkin?" The man's voice was calm but carried a weight that silenced the hall. Chrissy nodded, feeling dozens of camera lenses swivel toward her, their red lights blinking in anticipation. The man extended the envelope. "This is for you. I was asked to deliver it in person." Chrissy hesitated, glancing at Jim, who looked away, still wrestling with his own emotions. Reluctantly, she took the envelope, her fingers trembling. Emily leaned in, whispering, "Don't open it, not here." But it was too late. The damage was already done. The press circled closer, trying to catch a glimpse of what might be inside. Chrissy gripped the envelope tight, her knuckles whitening. Just then, the judge's clerk called everyone back to the courtroom. The break was over. With one last uncertain look at Jim, Chrissy tucked the envelope under her arm and made her way. Back inside, the air was thick with anticipation. What was in that envelope? A confession? A threat? Evidence of something darker. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was electric. Fans glued to their screens began flooding social media with wild theories. Some claimed the envelope held proof of Jim's betrayal. Others speculated it was Chrissy's own secret coming back to haunt her. The tension was so palpable that even the judge seemed to sit a little straighter, sensing that whatever was about to happen next would be remembered for years. Chrissy took her seat, the envelope now resting on the table before her. Jim shot her a look, half pleading, half daring her to open it. But before she could reach for it, the judge called her back to the stand. "Ms. Lampkin," he said, his voice measured but firm, "are you prepared to continue your testimony?" She nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, Your Honor." But her thoughts were miles away, her heart pounding as she wondered what waited inside that envelope. "Earlier, you said you kept secrets to protect your family," the judge prompted. "Can you tell us what those secrets were?" Chrissy closed her eyes for a moment, searching for the right words. "I lied about money," she began, her voice barely audible. A ripple ran through the crowd. Was this it? The confession everyone had been waiting for. "There were times when things got tight. I didn't want Jim to worry, so I borrowed money from someone I shouldn't have. I thought I could pay it back before he noticed, but things got complicated." Gasps echoed around the courtroom. Nancy's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth in shock. Derek muttered a curse under his breath, clearly blindsided. Jim's face went pale as the reality sank in. "Who did you borrow from?" the judge pressed, leaning in. Chrissy hesitated, her hands twisting in her lap. "Someone from Jim's past, someone we both thought was long gone." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. The family's past was full of shadows, old friends turned enemies. Debts never fully repaid, wounds that never quite healed. Jim slammed his fist on the table, unable to hold back any longer. "You brought him back into our lives." His voice trembled with anger and fear. "After everything we went through." Chrissy's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. The judge called for order as the courtroom erupted in shocked murmurs. The tension between Chrissy and Jim was now more than just emotional. It was a tangled web of history, trust, and survival. "Why didn't you tell me?" Jim demanded, his voice cracking. "All these years, I thought we were in this together." "I was scared," Chrissy replied, her voice raw with emotion. "Scared you'd think I failed you? Scared you'd leave me? I just wanted to fix it on my own." Her vulnerability cut through the room like a knife. Fans watching online flooded the chat with support and outrage. Some called Jim heartless for not seeing Chrissy's pain. Others blamed Chrissy for risking everything. Meanwhile, the envelope sat between them like a bomb waiting to explode. The judge, sensing the story wasn't finished, gestured toward it. "Ms. Lampkin, do you know what's in that envelope?" Chrissy shook her head, glancing nervously at Jim. "No, Your Honor. Haven't opened it yet." The judge nodded. His curiosity piqued. Perhaps now would be the time. Chrissy's hands shook as she reached for the envelope. She could feel Jim's eyes on her, searching for any sign of another lie. With the world watching, Chrissy slowly peeled back the flap. Inside, there were several folded papers and a single photograph. She unfolded the top page, her face draining of color as she read. The courtroom fell silent, every heartbeat loud in the hush. Emily leaned forward, desperate to see what had shaken her friend so deeply. "What is it?" Jim asked, his voice softer now, more afraid than angry. Chrissy struggled to find her voice. It's a letter. It's from him." She looked up, her eyes wide with fear and disbelief. "He says he wants to meet. He says he knows everything." The judge looked concerned. "Who is he, Ms. Lampkin?" Chrissy swallowed hard. "Marcus, the one I borrowed money from. The one Jim cut out of his life for good reason." The name sent a shiver through the room. Even Nancy looked as if she might faint. The photograph was a grainy surveillance shot Marcus standing outside their building late at night. A look of determination on his face. The implication was clear. Marcus was back and he was watching suddenly. The stakes of Chrissy's confession grew tenfold. It wasn't just about secrets and lies where it was about the past crashing into the present, threatening to tear apart everything Chrissy and Jim had tried so hard to build. The family sat in stunned silence, fans online losing their minds. As the comments section erupted in conspiracy theories, Jim leaned back in his seat, looking utterly defeated. "I thought we were done with him," he whispered. "I thought you promised." Chrissy's voice was barely audible. "Had no choice. I just wanted to protect us." The judge ordered a short recess to let the family regroup. But nobody moved. All eyes were fixed on Chrissy and Jim, as if waiting for the next explosion. As Chrissy stared at the letter in her shaking hands, she knew nothing would ever be the same. But just as the courtroom began to empty, Jim stood up, determination flashing in his eyes. He turned to Chrissy, voice barely above a whisper. "If you're meeting him, I'm coming with you." Chrissy looked up, startled. But there was no time to react. The cameras caught every raw emotion as the next act of their story was about to begin. The weight of Jim's words seemed to hang in the air long after he spoke them. Chrissy felt her breath catch in her throat. She could see the strain in his eyes, the raw mix of hurt and determination that now replaced his anger. Nancy moved closer to Jim, almost as if to shield him from another blow. But Jim only shook his head, refusing to be coddled. He glanced at Chrissy, then at the envelope, then back at the photograph of Marcus, still trembling between her fingers. Outside the courtroom, a storm was brewing. Word had already spread Marcus was back and his return was anything but friendly. Fans on social media debated whether Chrissy was a victim, a traitor, or just another player in a never-ending game of betrayal. Live commentary channels on YouTube dissected every second of the courtroom feed, playing and replaying the moment Jim's resolve seemed to harden that as the judge returned. Everyone filed back to their seats, the courtroom now heavy with anticipation. The air felt colder, the walls closer. Chrissy looked at Jim, uncertain whether his promise to join her was a threat or an act of desperate love. She could barely focus as the judge called the session to order. "Ms. Lampkin, Mr. Jones," the judge intoned, given the recent revelations. "I need to remind you both that this court is not a stage for settling old scores. But given the sensitive nature of your past, I am willing to allow a brief recess if it means closure for all parties." There was an edge to his voice, a mixture of sympathy and Dexostein. Even he seemed swept up in the drama unfolding before him. Chrissy glanced at her lawyer, who simply nodded, signaling that the decision was hers. Jim's hand tightened around the back of his chair. Chrissy swallowed, turned to the judge, and nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. We'd like to meet him." Courtroom doors opened, and the family filed out, Nancy, Derek, Emily, and a few other close friends trailing behind, all buzzing with anxiety. Outside, the world was waiting. Reporters and fans mobbed them, cameras flashing as Chrissy and Jim emerged side by side for the first time since the confession. They walked in silence, surrounded by a hurricane of questions and accusations. They made their way to a quiet room set aside by the courthouse, a neutral zone where even the boldest paparazzi hesitated to follow. Inside, the tension was suffocating. Chrissy sat at one end of a long table, Jim at the other. The envelope and photograph sat between them like forbidden fruit. Nancy sat in the corner, tears threatening to spill over again. "How did we get here?" she whispered, but no one answered. Derek paced back and forth, muttering about how they should have just kept everything in the family away from the public eye. A knock at the door made everyone jump. A security guard entered, followed by Marcus, the man whose very presence now threatened the fragile remnants of peace between Chrissy and Jim. He looked older, rougher around the edges, but there was a glint in his eyes, a mixture of defiance and something softer. Regret, maybe, that hinted at a story no one in the room wanted to hear. "I'm not here to start trouble," Marcus began, his voice low. "But Chrissy owes me. I have a right to explain myself." Jim bristled, standing up and squaring his shoulders. "You lost that right years ago, Marcus. You nearly tore us apart before. What do you want now?" Marcus looked from Jim to Chrissy and back again, his expression turning almost apologetic. "It's not just about the money. It's about what happened after. Chrissy, you were the only one who ever tried to help me, even when I didn't deserve it. But you made promises you couldn't keep. You said you'd pay me back and keep my name out of things, but that didn't happen." Chrissy felt herself shrink into the chair. "I tried, Marcus. I really did. But things spun out of control. I was drowning." Her words were met with silence. Jim's single quotes, his face softened, if only a little. "So, what's this then? Blackmail? You want to ruin us in front of the whole world?" Marcus shook his head. "No, I want closure. And maybe a little bit of redemption." Emily finally spoke up, her voice trembling. "What does that even mean?" Marcus hesitated, then reached into his jacket and produced a small digital recorder. He placed it on the table between them, his hand lingering for a second as if reluctant to let go. "There's a recording on here," Marcus said quietly. "It proves what really happened. Not just between me and Chrissy, but about the money, the threats, the night everything fell apart." Everyone's attention snapped to the recorder as if it had suddenly become the most dangerous object in the room. Chrissy felt her pulse quicken. "What are you talking about?" Marcus met her gaze, sadness clouding his features. "It wasn't just you, Chrissy. It was Derek, too. And someone else, someone close to Jim. I tried to get help, but no one would listen. Now I want the truth out, even if it hurts." Jim stared at Derek, realization dawning on his face. "Is this true? Were you in on this?" Derek looked away, his jaw clenched, refusing to answer. The room erupted in accusations and denials, voices rising, tempers flaring. Nancy began to sob, unable to process the avalanche of secrets. We're supposed to be family, she choked out. How could you all let it get this far? Marcus slid the recorder forward. Play it. Let everyone hear the truth. Chrissy looked at Jim, then at Derek, her eyes pleading for a reason not to press play. But Jim, broken by the endless revelations, simply nodded. Let's get it. Over with trembling hands, Chrissy pressed the button. A series of voices filled the room, shouting accusations, then a chilling silence, followed by a confession that tied everyone together in a web of lies, money, and betrayal. It was raw, it was real, and it left the entire family speechless. The shock was so deep that no one moved for a full minute after the recording stopped. Fans online were stunned, unable to process the avalanche of revelations. Some posted theories that this was the end for Chrissy and Jim. Others clung to hope for reconciliation. Everyone knew one thing: there was no going back now. As the dust settled, Jim finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. What do you want, Marcus? Marcus hesitated, looking around the room at the wreckage his presence had caused. I want to be free of this, and I want my money back. After that, I'll disappear for good. Chrissy nodded, tears running down her cheeks. You'll have it, whatever it takes. Derek mumbled his agreement, finally stepping forward, shamed but relieved that the truth was finally out. As the family began to pick up the pieces, the judge called them back to the courtroom. The next chapter of their public reckoning was about to unfold. But little did they know, even more secrets waited in the wings, ready to come crashing down. When they least expected it, the family gathered themselves in silence as they returned to the courtroom. Each step heavier than the last, the sound of their shoes echoed on the polished floor, a stark reminder of how exposed they had become. Chrissy held Jim's hand tightly, her eyes swollen from tears, while Derek trailed a few steps behind, his face flushed with shame. Nancy moved with a limp, clutching her purse to her chest, and Emily lingered near the door as if tempted to run away from all the pain. Even the fans outside had grown quiet, sensing that what was happening inside was bigger than the drama they'd come to witness. It was a family unraveling in real time. The judge looked at each of them, his expression unreadable. You all may be seated, he said quietly, his tone softer now, almost sympathetic. I realize emotions are high, and this has become more than a legal matter. But this court still requires the truth. He paused, letting the words settle, and continued. Ms. Lampkin, I heard the recording. Did this entire room. There is more to this than money or misunderstandings. Chrissy's voice trembled as she responded. Your Honor, I never wanted any of this to happen. I just wanted to fix what I'd broken, but it seems like every truth I tell just makes things worse. Her hands shook as she wiped away fresh tears, and Jim squeezed her hand, for once not trying to hide the pain on his face. The judge turned to Jim. Mr. Jones, you've been remarkably calm given everything you've just learned. Would you like to address the court? Jim hesitated, searching for words. I feel like I don't even know who to trust anymore, he admitted. But I know I don't want to lose my family. Not like this. Derek finally broke his silence, his voice hoarse. I messed up. I thought I was protecting us, but I was just hiding from my own mistakes. He looked at Jim, eyes pleading. You've been like a brother to me. I never meant to drag you into my mess. The judge nodded, as if expecting this moment of reckoning. Families keep secrets, sometimes to protect, sometimes out of fear. But secrets never stay buried, and when they come out, they demand to be faced. He looked at each member of the family. This court isn't here to decide who's good or bad. It's here to find the truth and maybe help you all move forward. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs as the judge called for one final statement from Chrissy. She rose slowly, her knees trembling, but her voice, though tired, held a new strength. I know I hurt everyone. I know I lied. But I want to start over. If Jim will have me, if the family will have me, I'll spend the rest of my life making it right. Fans online erupted with reactions, some siding with Chrissy for her honesty, others insisting she didn't deserve forgiveness. Jim's mother, Nancy, looked torn between anger and pity, her heart breaking for both her son and the woman he loved as the judge prepared to close the hearing. The doors to the courtroom suddenly burst open. A court officer rushed in, his face pale with urgency. "Your Honor, we have a situation," he announced, holding up a smartphone. The judge motioned him forward, and the officer whispered urgently in the judge's ear. The judge's eyes widened, and he quickly called a recess, motioning for Jim, Chrissy, and the family to approach the bench once they were gathered in the judge's chambers. Away from prying eyes and ears, he revealed what the officer had told him. "There's been a leak," the judge said grimly. "A video has surfaced online, a private moment, filmed without your knowledge, showing Marcus confronting Derek and Chrissy weeks ago. It's already gone viral." Shock washed over Chrissy's face, and Jim clenched his jaw, rage flickering. In his eyes, Derek looked like he might collapse. Nancy shook her head in disbelief. "How much more do we have to take?" The judge held up a hand. "I have to ask, did any of you know this video existed?" Chrissy shook her head. "No, Your Honor. I didn't even know anyone was recording that night." Derek muttered, "Me neither." Marcus was furious. He threatened to ruin everything if I didn't pay him back, but I never thought he'd record it. The judge sighed. "This changes things. The public already knows too much. If you have a choice, address the world yourselves, tell your side, or let the internet decide what's true." The family huddled together, desperation in their eyes. Chrissy turned to Jim. "Maybe if we speak up, we can control the story. Maybe we can finally put an end to all this." Jim nodded, though he looked exhausted. "If we don't, people will just believe whatever they want. We have to face it together." The judge gave his blessing, and with the world's eyes watching, the family prepared to address the media. Chrissy and Jim walked out first, hand in hand. The flash of cameras blinding, but somehow less frightening now that the truth was out. Chrissy stepped up to the microphones, her voice steady for the first time in days. "We never planned for any of this to be public. We're not perfect, but we are a family, and we're going to fight for each other, no matter what." Jim took her hand, adding, "I've made mistakes too. But I love Chrissy, and I'm not going to let the past destroy our future. We're going to move forward one day at a time." The fans watching from around the world felt the weight of their words. Some were moved to tears, others skeptical, but everyone could see the emotion was real. The judge announced that the court would recess until further notice, giving the family time to heal or fall apart as they left the courthouse. Whispers followed them, a mixture of support, outrage, and wild new rumors. Yet as they drove away together, Chrissy felt a strange sense of hope for the first time in a long while. She knew more challenges waited ahead, but for the moment, it survived the worst of it. What none of them realized, however, was that one last secret was still hiding in the shadows, one that could change everything if it ever came to light. And as the city lights blurred past their car windows, Chrissy wondered if she was finally ready to face it. Whatever it might be, in the days that followed their public statement, the entire city buzzed with the aftermath of Chrissy and Jim's court drama. Every radio station, gossip blog, and YouTube channel had its own theorism, called it a story of forgiveness. Others insisted it was just the latest episode in an endless reality show. But behind closed doors, the family wrestled with wounds far deeper than anything the public could see. At home, the mood shifted between tense silence and raw vulnerability. Chrissy spent her nights staring at the ceiling, replaying every painful moment, her confession, the courtroom chaos, the way Jim looked at her when everything fell apart. Jim tried to keep himself busy, burying his pain in work and long drives through the city, hoping the hum of the engine might drown out the ache in his chest. One evening, the sun dipped below the skyline. Chrissy found herself alone on the balcony, the city stretching out before her like an endless ocean of possibility and regret. Nancy joined her, a steaming mug of tea in her hands. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Nancy broke the silence, her voice gentle but firm. "I never wanted to lose you, Chrissy. You and Jim. You've been through more than most. But honesty matters. We all have to live with the choices we make." Chrissy nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. "I just wish I could take it all back, Nancy. I never meant to hurt anyone. I was scared. And when I get scared, I push people away." Nancy reached over, squeezing Chrissy's hand. "Sometimes, the hardest thing is admitting you need help. But you're not alone anymore. We'll get through this somehow." The two women sat together as the city lights flickered on. A small moment of peace in the midst of chaos. Meanwhile, Jim sat in the living room with Derek and Emily. The air was thick with unspoken words, the television playing quietly in the background. Derek finally spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. "I know I messed up, Jim. I know I let you down. But I swear if I could change it, I would. I was just trying to protect my own family, and I lost sight of what mattered." Jim looked at him, a long silence passing between them. "The thing is, Derek, I get it. We all make choices we regret. I'm not innocent in all this either." His words hung in the air, heavy but honest. It seemed as if the family was finally finding a way to heal. The headlines slowly faded, replaced by newer scandals and fresher gossip. Fans still sent letters and messages, some offering support, others condemning them. Through it all, Chrissy and Jim clung to each other, determined to rebuild what had nearly been destroyed. But just when it seemed the dust had settled, Chrissy received an anonymous letter in the mail. There was no return address, only her name written in shaky handwriting. She hesitated before opening it, her hands trembling as she unfolded the note. Inside, she found a single sentence. "The truth isn't finished yet." Her heart pounded. As she scanned the letter for clues, but there was nothing else. No signature, no explanation. Her mind raced with possibilities. Was it Marcus, seeking revenge from the shadows? A fan still obsessed with their downfall? Or was there another secret she had yet to discover? Chrissy tucked the letter away, deciding to keep it to herself for now. She didn't want to burden Jim or Nancy or anyone else, not when they had all been through so much already. But the message gnawed at her, a constant reminder that the past had a way of coming back when you least expected it. In the days that followed, Chrissy tried to focus on moving forward. She and Jim started going to therapy, working through their pain, and learning to trust each other again. Nancy hosted family dinners, determined to remind everyone what mattered most. Emily and Derek apologized, promising to never let secrets come between them again. And for a while, things felt almost normal. Laughter returned to the house. Music played. The air grew lighter, but deep down, Chrissy knew the story wasn't over. There were still scars, still unanswered questions. And in the quiet moments when the world was still, she could almost hear the echo of that anonymous note, promising that the final truth had yet to be revealed as the family gathered for Sunday dinner. Chrissy looked around the table at Jim, at Nancy, at Derek, and Emily, and felt a surge of hope. Maybe the future wouldn't be perfect, but at least they were facing it together outside. The city pulsed with life, oblivious to the storm that had raged behind their closed doors. Fans continued to speculate, rumors swirled, but for the first time in a long time, Chrissy allowed herself to breathe. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, or what other secrets might emerge. But she knew she wasn't alone. The chapter might be ending, but the story was far from finished. Whatever happened next, the world would be watching, and Chrissy would be ready. And so, as Chrissy and Jim finally began to pick up the pieces, one thing is clear: no matter how hard you try to leave the past behind, the truth has a way of finding you. The courtroom confessions, the shocking revelations, the betrayals, and the heartbreak, all of it has left a mark, not just on their family, but on everyone watching. Fans are still in disbelief, divided over who was right, who was wrong, and what the next bombshell might be. But with that mysterious letter now lurking in the shadows, the biggest question remains, is the drama really over? Or is there another secret just waiting to shatter everything again? Emotions have run high. Alliances have shifted, and the family's unity hangs by a thread. Will Chrissy and Jim finally find peace? Or is this just the calm before another storm? Now it's your turn to join the conversation. What do you think was the most shocking moment? Do you believe Chrissy and Jim can truly move on? Or do you think another twist is coming? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's see whose theory comes true first. And if you're as hooked on the drama as we are, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe for more jaw-dropping updates and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter in this unbelievable story. Your opinion matters, so let's keep this discussion going. Thanks for watching, and remember, in the world of celebrity secrets and family scandals, nothing is ever really over. Stay tuned because you never know what truth is waiting to come out next.